Previously, on day 1 and 2 of our Arizona Peace Trail special, we began our northbound journey at Interstate 8 near Dayton. After traversing the wide open and sometimes rocky Palomas Plain, we made our first night's camp just south of Coyote Peak at the La Paz County line. The following day, we crossed the Ranagras Plain and I-10 before visiting the Harquahala town site and other mining areas south of Siloam. After resupplying in Siloam, we continued north briefly on pavement before using a power line road to cross through Butler Valley. We checked out a World War II military camp before dropping into the ghost town of Swansea for the night. Today, we continue our journey north, leaving Swansea and cross the Bill Williams River at the rugged and historic Planet mining area. Once in Mojave County, our trails get rougher and narrower as we traverse dozens of miles of wash bottoms before eventually making it to Lake Havasu City. We'll end the day camped out in the Mojave Mountains, preparing for a fast approaching rainstorm.
Our day began at around 8 a.m. We stumbled out of the tent and were greeted by rather gloomy skies and the ghost town of Swansea just to the south of us. With our time exploring the town yesterday cut short by the fading light, I was able to take a quick walk and check out the row of abandoned buildings across from our camp. These buildings were once the company houses and occupied from 1910 to 1917. These company houses were one of 2 rows of buildings that would have been used to house miners and other workers. The buildings remain in varying states of decay. Some were made of adobe bricks, while others featured impressive rockwork.
Back at camp, we set to work on breakfast. Today would be something slightly more filling than yesterday. We cooked up some bacon, scrambled eggs, and cheese. It was darn good. After some quick dishes, we packed up camp. By 9:30, we were back in the Jeep and cruising through Swansea on our way back to the Arizona Peace Trail route. We passed through tailings piles, numerous old buildings, and began our slow climb out on the slightly rougher road.
We briefly retraced our route from yesterday before making it back to the 4-way intersection west of Swansea. This time, we would be staying right to head north. The trail remained smooth as it slowly descended into the Buckskin Mountains. After around 12 miles, we split off the road and headed towards Planet and Planet Ranch. From here, things got significantly more scenic. The trail dropped through a series of roads and washes into an impressive canyon with steep red and black walls. Just before 17 miles, we reached part of the historic Planet mining area. A few old buildings remained off to our right. The Planet area was first prospected by Richard Ryland in 1863, making it one of the earliest substantial mining efforts in Arizona history. The mine produced high-grade copper ore. This ore was assayed at 15 to 40% copper. Initially, the ore was hauled to San Francisco via boat along the Colorado River. However, it would later be hauled to the same smelter as its nearby neighbor, Swansea in Wales. The town swelled to 500 and had its own post office before playing out during World War I. The Planet area produced around 3 million pounds of copper in its lifetime.
After checking out a few of the ruins and enjoying the stark scenery, we proceeded northbound in the surprisingly green river valley ahead. After crossing through a gate into the Planet Ranch Conservation Area, which used to be closed off to the public, we continued east. After a short time, we turned north and headed towards the crossings of the mighty Bill Williams River.
So needless to say, I don't think we're going to need to check the depth of the river.
You don't say. Is this it?
I'm pretty sure that this area is like the river valley or the river plain.
River depth, zip.
0.
Thanks to some area agriculture, most of the river flows underground here, meaning there wasn't any water to contend with at all. Just lots of green fields. Now in Mojave County, the trail climbed north. After a few miles, we reached an important turnoff. From here, we would continue west off the more established road. Luckily, this and many other important turns are signed. Our pace was slowed immediately as the trail became narrower, rockier, and rutted out. We crawled along, picking our lines as we inched west.
"10 miles later, we arrived in a dry wash bottom and turned northwest. For the next roughly 15 miles, we would be navigating a series of washes as we pushed closer to Lake Havasu. The wash bottoms were heavily traveled. Our pace was mixed as we traversed the deep sand, occasional bouldery sections, and downright brutal washboards for miles. With countless different side trails and turns to navigate, carrying a solid map is absolutely critical in this section. It would be quite easy to get lost. The trail became more scenic the further northwest we headed, as the wash walls became tall and steep. This would certainly not be a place you'd want to be in a flash flood. At the 45-mile mark for the day, the trail briefly left the wash bottoms and climbed. A few tippy sections had us questioning our center of gravity with the tent up on top of the Jeep. Things remained moderate and slow-paced. we eventually reached a high point on the trail and began to head west. The Colorado River and Lake Havasu came into view below. The trail remained narrow and rocky, which wasn't a problem. The Jeep, however, wasn't quite handling it like the increasing number of side-by-sides that kept passing us. After enjoying the scenic section, the trail flattened out and we eventually made it to the outskirts of town. We parked the Jeep to air up the tires, which at this point had been aired down for over 24 hours. But there was something wrong. The compressor was not turning on. After replacing a blown fuse in our newly installed battery box, we were back in business.
Back on the blacktop for a few miles, we cruised through Lake Havasu. It was late afternoon and our 55 miles from here to Swansea had taken most of the day. We stopped off for an early dinner at a local brewery to enjoy some good food and drinks. Over dinner, we checked the weather and talked about our plans for the following day.
After dinner, we set out north towards the Mojave Mountains and our camp for the night. We opted to camp a little bit further north and closer to Highway 95 than we had originally planned. Although it was dry now, in the morning it would certainly not be, and we definitely didn't want to camp at a place where we would get stuck. We arrived right at sunset and set up a quick camp on BLM land. Trying to think ahead, we decided to use our tarp to create a sort of lean-to around the back of the Jeep, which would end up being a mistake. We managed to get a fire going and relaxed around it for a while, trying to get as warm and dry as we possibly could. After a bumpy day on the trails, we crawled up into the tent fairly early. Next time, we wrap up days 4 and 5 along our Arizona Peace Trail special. After waking up to a wet and soggy morning, we'll push northbound through the rain, mud, and fog, following old railroad beds in scenic trails before making it to the small town of Oatman. Late in the day, we'll push east through the formidable Black Mountains before our last night's camp as we attempt to make it to the end of the trail in Golden Valley, just outside of Kingman.